I spotted my girlfriend being unfaithful right outside a pub the previous evening. I didn't shout or make a fuss. I simply snapped a picture, headed back home, and forwarded it to her folks with the message. Figured you'd want to know what your daughter's getting into. Her name is Aaliyah. For 3 years, she meant everything to me. We created a home in the house I owned outright, a spot I'd slaved through overtime shifts for ages to buy. The initial 2 years felt solid, or so I believed. But over this past year, things shifted. Aaliyah landed a position at an upscale advisory company, and all of a sudden, our setup wasn't sufficient anymore. My buddies were too rowdy, my outfits lacked labels. My role as head technician at a car lot wasn't flashy. She began discussing status, connections, the lifestyle she felt entitled to. I covered the fancy meals, the short getaways, the costly presents she craved, convincing myself it was temporary. I was naive for believing that. It's clear to me now. That evening was meant to be a relaxed one indoors. She claimed she had an obligatory after-hours business meal. Near 10 p.m., my cousin rang me up, needing a boost since his battery was dead. His vehicle was parked at a tavern across town. Not an issue. I snatched my keys and drove over. Once I jump-started his ride, we were chatting in the lot when I noticed her. No way to confuse it. She was positioned beneath the glowing sign of the pub, the spot she'd described as a dull office spot. She wasn't surrounded by colleagues. She was entwined with a lanky man in a tailored outfit I'd never encountered, giggling in that exaggerated tone she reserved for charming others. Then she rose on her tiptoes and planted a kiss on him. It wasn't a casual cheek brush. It was an extended, passionate one, the type that erases any uncertainty. A chill settled deep within me, everything going numb. The fury burned inside, a searing twist in my stomach, but outwardly, there was only sharpness. My cousin began to speak, likely checking if I was all right, but I raised a palm to quiet him. I drew out my phone. My fingers didn't tremble at all. I focused the lens, ensuring the pub's marker showed in the frame, capturing their expressions sharply. Clicked once. Only once. Then I climbed into my pickup and returned home. I settled on my sofa in the shadows, gazing at the image on my screen. Her. Him. The embrace. The full narrative captured in one shot. I pondered my next move. I could wait for her return and explode in a heated argument that might conclude with her weeping and me likely relenting, or I could terminate it. Neatly, firmly. I considered her parents, Theophilus and Martha. They were cornerstones of their congregation, a deacon and a prominent singer in the choir. They prized outward perfection, their household's flawless image. They cherished me for my reliability, for owning my residence, for being the steady, dependable partner their child required. They were clueless about their daughter's true nature away from their gaze. It was moment for revelation. I started a fresh message and added the image. I dispatched it to both in a shared thread. The note was straightforward. Thought you should see what your daughter is up to. I pressed send. Then I switched my phone to mute and turned in. By morning, my device was flooded with alerts. Unanswered calls from Aaliyah, her parents, her circle. Furious messages, desperate ones. I disregarded every one. I anticipated she'd unleash a storm of chaos, and that image had ignited it. I suspected she wouldn't simply gather her items and depart. She'd demand a showdown. She'd crave the spectacle. So I readied myself. My residence features a surveillance cam above the entry, but I needed more solid proof, something irrefutable. I grabbed my spare phone, connected it to a charger pack, and positioned it on the ledge by my front window, aimed straight at my driveway where my vehicle sat. It was a vintage 1970s Chevelle, a machine I'd invested 5 years rebuilding personally. It was my greatest achievement. I started the recording. Then I brewed some coffee and bided my time. It wasn't a long wait. Around 11 a.m., her vehicle skidded to a stop at the edge. She didn't exit by herself. Her closest pal, Rosa, accompanied her. Aaliyah emerged from the rider's side, clutching a metal bat. My bat pulled from the shed. She was already yelling as she stepped onto the grass. Raw fury. James, come out here, you spineless jerk. You believe you can wreck my world? You think you can shame me before my family? I observed from the glass, my old device capturing it all. Rosa was spurring her, shouting about how I was a lowly traitor for my actions. Aaliyah strode directly to my Chevelle. No pause. She swung the bat full force into the driver's glass. The crash of breaking shards echoed sharply. She continued. She hammered it repeatedly. Onto the front, creating a huge buckle. On the front glass, fracturing it into a web of cracks. Along the doors, carving deep scratches into the bespoke finish I'd labored months to achieve. She lost control, howling and swearing as she demolished the single item she knew I treasured. Rosa was capturing it on her device, likely for some online triumph. When she finally gasped for air, she hurled the bat onto the yard and charged my door, banging with her hands. "You witness what occurs when you cross me, James? You see?" That's when I swung open the door. I wasn't armed. I held my phone, connected to emergency services, speaker active so she heard the steady voice. Her expression drained of color. The fire in her gaze turned to sheer terror. Rosa halted recording instantly. "There's a female here who's just performed serious property destruction on my land," I told the operator. "She wielded a bat to ruin my automobile. Indeed, it's fully recorded." I spot the patrol vehicle entering my road now. The wail of alerts grew nearer. Aaliyah's frame began to quiver. The bravado evaporated. She appeared as a frightened youth who grasped she'd overstepped. "James, no," she murmured, voice breaking. "Please stop this. It was an error." I was upset. "You weren't upset, Aaliyah," I stated, tone icy and firm. "You felt privileged. You assumed you could betray me, and I'd accept it. You figured you could trash my belongings, and face no repercussions. You erred." The cruiser stopped at the curb. 2 cops stepped out, faces stern as they surveyed the damage. The wrecked auto, the bat on the grass, the pair on my steps. Aaliyah began pleading, genuine, frantic, messy appeals. "Please, love, inform them it was a mix-up. Say we were arguing. I'll cover the repairs, I promise. I'll agree to whatever." Tears streamed now, hand reaching for me. I retreated. The officer, a tall, straightforward lady, eyed me. "Sir, is this the individual who harmed your car?" "Affirmative, officer," I replied, "and the full event is taped from her arrival to discarding the bat." I indicated the device on the sill. That sealed it. Aaliyah's resistance faded entirely. The officer secured her wrists, reciting her rights as she wailed without control. Her pleas as they led her off linger in my mind. She implored them. She implored me. She even implored Rosa, who was swiftly backing away, claiming to the second officer she was uninvolved. As they placed her in the vehicle, she glanced at me once more, face streaked with sorrow. "You caused this?" she formed with her lips through the glass. I merely shook my head. "No, you caused this yourself." Once the cops departed with Aaliyah secured and a report number in my possession, the quiet was profound. I emailed the clip of her outburst to the primary officer immediately. Then I re-entered and at last viewed my phone. It was overwhelmed. Her mom, Martha, had fired off over a dozen notes. Early ones puzzled, then irate, then shocked after evidently talking to Aaliyah. "You had no authority to involve us. This is personal." I responded solely with a capture of the incident number. That ended her messages abruptly. Her dad, Theopolis, left one voice note. It blended fury toward me with profound, tired letdown in his child. He seemed like a guy whose ideal reality had crumbled. He concluded, "You and Aaliyah are finished. And starting now, so are she and I." He'd disowned her. The parental support was shut down. I passed the afternoon handling the aftermath. I contacted my insurer and initiated the claim for my auto. I summoned a lock expert and replaced every key in the house. Then I began boxing her possessions. I utilized her own luxury suitcases, the ones she boasted about. I folded each gown, each pair of heels, each scent vial. The following days blurred with paperwork and personal sorting. Aaliyah was bailed out, covered by a hesitant Rosa. Her immediate action was launching a defamation drive. Abruptly, shared acquaintances received a twisted tale. In her account, I was the tyrannical, domineering beast. The image to her parents was altered digitally. I'd pushed her to a breakdown, and the auto episode was a frantic plea I viciously used. It could have gained traction if I hadn't anticipated. I stayed silent. I avoided debate. I forwarded one concise update to our shared chat. It was the footage, the unambiguous clip of her in frenzy, systematically wrecking my auto as Rosa urged her. I included no explanation. The recording conveyed it. The backlash was swift and severe. Acquaintances who'd messaged worry now offered regrets. Rosa turned into an outcast, the companion who documented harm rather than intervening. The man from the pub had vanished from Aaliyah upon hearing the mess. He avoided her level of instability. 7 days on, an attorney phoned. He spoke for Aaliyah. He stated she'd arrive to collect her items and they'd pursue claims for mental anguish and her share in the residence. I chuckled. Your client isn't listed on the title, loan, or any bills here, I informed him. She holds no share. Regarding anguish, I possess footage of her felony act on my land. My attorney will contact for a counterclaim on repairs, deductible, and lost value of my vintage auto. Anything further? He paused. My client arrives Saturday at noon for her belongings, he said, confidence waning. All right, I agreed. She'll need law enforcement presence. No entry without. That Saturday marked my final sight of her face-to-face. She appeared with 2 officers and her mom. She avoided my eyes. Her mom attempted a lecture, calling me cruel, but an officer kindly silenced her. I'd stacked Aaliyah's bags in the garage. They transferred them to her mom's vehicle in strained, wretched quiet. As they prepared to go, Aaliyah met my gaze at last. No sobs, no wrath, just a vacant stare. The court fight was brief and lopsided. Confronted with the proof, she pleaded guilty to serious vandalism. She received 2 years supervised release, a large penalty, required counseling for temper, and mandated full repayment for auto fixes, totaling over $17,000. Her action against me vanished quickly. Last update, she's residing with her parents again. Her father insists she take a store position to reimburse me fully. She forfeited her elite role, her social circle, her standing, and her independence, all for refusing to let her ideal facade crack. She opted for the bat over mature handling. I had my auto restored. It shines like before, but each drive reminds me of that evening. Anger has faded. Only calm remains. I glimpsed her true self, and I responded. I poured a scotch and savored the quiet in my space. It was truly done.